Yours is quite handsome. You should cherish it. A mortal has but one, although he wears many. Brave or bare, pale or plain, little is said, but in time all is written, in forests of grey or in barren canyons of earth. And when the night draws its curtains on twin suns, all that is left is nothing. All that was is hollow. Tell me, traveler, of what do I speak? Correct. You understand then that to wear many faces and to be without a face is the essence of life, and only in death do we return to the one. But that was then. Such limitations do not apply for those who turn the dead into the living. Perhaps you would like to volunteer that lovely face of yours for a makeover, before the worms decorate it with freckles. If you wish to hear my credentials first, then know that I am a disciple of the hollow-faced men of Nohotogra and the witches of Devil Rock. Yet, I digress, for what you require first is a name. I am ᵯᴑᴆᴆᴇᴆ, a sculptor of the dead. I am returning to Morrowind from a 50-year pilgrimage across the deserts of Valakir. I spent 40 years in the service of the Hollow Faces, learning the bending of bone and the dance of flesh. I spent another decade studying under the ancient covens of Devil Rock to study the art of bestial transformation. When I finished my training, it occurred to me that those who ply their trade in deceit could use my services, so I decided to return to Morrowind. Yet the Morrig tongue is no more, and the guilds are as brittle as the undead. Skin changers, flesh dancers, the tribe of the wandering faces. The hollow-faced men of Nohotogra go by many names. Like the chirurgeons of Cloudrest and the slave sculptors of Ayleid lore, they are masters of the art of molding flesh. Yes, as their existence is as much folklore as their abilities. I trekked to Hammerfell, unsure if my steps were made in vain. For 7 days and 7 nights I marched across the dunes of Alikir. I collapsed on a nameless dune, surrendering to the heat and the vultures that loomed overhead. Yet, as the birds descended, their faces lost all expression, their eyes as hollow as midnight. As it turns out, they were not vultures, but men, nomads, crossing the desert. I pleaded for water first, and for direction second. The 3 nomads obliged, and led the way.
I had a collection of scalps once. I kept account of how many men I'd skinned. Then I lost track, and it lost its appeal.
Don't be afraid to put on a brave face. The next morning I woke up and was startled to find myself surrounded by 3 new guides, each bearing no similarity to the last. What is it? Must we prattle on about the particulars? I would much rather spend time in the arms of a young and handsome adventurer. A bed of sand may be as soft as a cloud, but individually each grain is extremely coarse. The ancient stonecutters would lay out a line of sand over a block of granite, then run a saw over that line. It is not the same type of saw we use to cut wood. The saw has no edge. It is there simply to apply pressure. The sand serves as its teeth. The sand scalpels of the hollow-faced men are made by binding grains of sand to a small, edgeless knife. The end product is a blade that can shape and cut bone as easily as a man shaves his beard. Your face is indeed impressive, but I would hesitate to call it perfect. Nevertheless, it matters not. I have not touched living flesh in some time. To say that I am out of practice would be generous. Instead, I have focused all of my resources on sculpting the undead. Restoration. I'm sure you have noticed, but healing potions, spells, and incantations do not repair the dead. Restoring dead flesh, even if it were as pristine as yours, is inconceivable without the knowledge of darker arts. I can shape the skull, mold the cartilage, and bind dyes to their pupils to give their eyes luster. Yet, incisions must be made, and incisions can leave scars. Isn't it obvious? How can I be a sculptor of the dead without dead people to sculpt? I appreciate your willingness to help. Yes, you may be able to assist me. I am not in need of a fresh corpse, but an old one. You see, upon entering Skyrim, my carriage was sacked by a group of bandits, and I was relieved of some personal effects. Foremost among them was a male hip bone widened to resemble a female's, crafted by a body sculptor. One of my former masters kept it as a souvenir, an oddity one puts on a desk to start a conversation. However, as a young apprentice bored with magic, it became the very catalyst for my life's pursuit. As my skill improved, I gravitated toward the more difficult arts, the more delicate flesh, none more so than the faces of the undead. Yet it all began with that single sculpted hip bone, one given to me as a parting gift when I left for Hammerfell. As the bandits unloaded my belongings, I overheard one of them discussing his future plans. Something about setting up camp overlooking a sleeping giant. His words only confused me, but perhaps you will be able to make sense of it. Excellent. I look forward to having my items returned to me. Some are dear to me for sentimental reasons. Others are vital for resuming my practice. And I assure you, if you do this for me, you will be handsomely rewarded. A coven native to the coast, a league or two north of the Dragontail Mountains. In truth, I would have followed any coven, but after my time in the desert, I longed to see the ocean. Witchcraft naturally aligns with my interests. The ability to transform the body, to lengthen bones and expand the heart is an important skill. It is said the Glenmoral witches once took flight as ravens, and their spells could cure lycanthropy. There was still much I had wished to learn from the beldam of the coven, but such knowledge was only available to the most devoted of supplicants. Correct. It was unfortunate, but in the end I was forced to kill them all, lest the indoctrination take hold. A coven. In truth, I would have followed any. Witchcraft naturally aligns with my interests. The ability to. It is said there was still much I had wished to learn from the beldam of the. Yes, that would preclude you from joining their ranks. Although, I will certainly not hold it against you. A coven. In truth, I would have followed witchcraft. It is said there was still much I had wished to learn from the beldam of. If by that you mean combat magic, I picked up a spell or two. Yet a witch's training goes beyond mere fire and ice. There are things practiced in the dark, the art of the forbidden, like how to seduce a male, or please a female. A coven. In truth, I would have witchcraft. It is said there was still much I had wished. Correct. It was unfortunate, but in the end I was forced to kill them all. A coven. In truth, I would have fought witchcraft. It is said there was still much I had wished to learn from the blood is a powerful agent, and to spill it grants one strength. But yes, I agree such rituals could do with a bit more cleanliness. It is well known that the aliens kept entire stables full of slaves, relying on their labor to build their shrines and monuments. Back then, slaves were valuable commodities. Stronger specimens, like yourself for instance, would be highly valued on the market. Of course, it is believed this led to underground operations, where the bodies of weaker slaves would be modified to appear robust. The High Elves have long been obsessed with their appearance, namely maintaining a similarity to their ancestral Aldmer. In time, the practice extended to other, more practical uses. Highborn often have their faces chiseled to maintain the appearance of youth. Thieves, criminals, and necromancers will pay a large sum to change their identity. The chirurgeons of Cloudrest accommodate them all.
Nothing without failure. The day I've succeeded everything is the day I kill myself. There are no more mountains to climb.
The traveler came to this land not as a visitor or a pilgrim, but a prisoner bonded by fate. Yet he comes before me now as an arbiter, not just of his own fate, but the very world's. For when he speaks, the clouds part, the seas boil, and the earth trembles at his feet. Welcome to my humble abode, Dragonborn. How may I be of assistance? What What you seek is knowledge, Dragonborn. You must first acquire knowledge before you can learn. You must first learn before you can understand. However, even when you achieve understanding, you have taken but the first step towards true wisdom. For wisdom comes not from understanding, the challenging of its merits. Congeniality is a totem with many faces. There are those who use it to ingratiate, and those who employ it to master duplicity. It can be a show of kindness, a perfunctory gesture, or an admission of fear. But I digress. That is an answer you already know. To answer what you do not, my name is ᵯᴑᴆᴆᴇᴆ. I once walked the path of the Greybeards, but now I follow my own. A single point of contention, but a fundamental one. The Greybeards insist on a path of non-violence. While ostensibly honorable, it is a path that defers the responsibility of higher thinking by adopting an easy absolute. It is not indolence that motivates them, but fear. To accept that violence is an acceptable solution is to gamble on the very nature of man. They insist that man, given the opportunity for violence, will use it irresponsibly. I say it depends on the man. The Greybeards will have you believe that the path to wisdom is one wrought through meditation and pacifism. Allow me to elucidate you on why they are mistaken. They will point to the fallacy of situational ethics. They may present an example of a monk who advocates violence and self-defense. However, in the fog of war, who can say what threats to one's safety are real or imagined? Yes, for it is when circumstances are difficult that we are most tempted, and when ethics becomes situational. The allure of self-preservation, the allure to save lives, the need to honor the gods, will lead men to perform heinous acts. All in the name of what is just and good. Yes, the philosophy the Greybeards have adopted is based on this principle. They insist the mortal mind is too weak to resist such temptation. Therefore, the only way to avoid the criminality of violence is to eliminate it. The conundrum such logic poses is twofold. First, it fails to recognize that mortals, through logic and discussion, are capable of finding solutions to complex dilemmas. Second, the philosophy assumes that personal morality absolves one from ethical responsibility. As the world cascades into war, the Greybeards stand aside, assuaged by the fact their own hands are clean. However, when it comes time for judgment, the Divines will punish us for all the good we did not do, and all the evil we ignored. Violence can instigate wars, and violence can end them. The potential for a cycle of brutality must be considered, but it is far from inevitable. I have some knowledge of the Thum, but I am hardly a master. Only the Dragonborn has the innate ability to absorb the soul of a dragon, and with it, the essence of the Thum. It is a gift, and a curse. You have been granted power, but it dared none of the training to achieve it. The body and the mind are inexorably linked. To train one is to train the other. To become strong is to appreciate the value of effort. It is that discipline one earns to gain the power that provides the wisdom to know when to use it. This is not to say you cannot train your mind to responsibly wield the body the divines have granted you. I suspect that is why they have brought you here, to gain what was lost. I trust you know of its weight, but are not yet capable of grasping the full extent of your actions. Few ever do. However, it is enough that you consider the repercussions of your choices, as that alone will guide you toward decisions that are righteous. True, the last few years were contentious, but it was not always so. Angear and I were once very close. That was when our skin was not so wrinkled, and our beards not so grey. We were but fledglings then, still learning the way of the voice. We would gather our own supplies from Iverstead, and make the trek back up the 7,000 steps. I still recall the last time we raced up those steps. It was at the dawn of first seed, a brisk spring morning. A simple race to the top. The loser would be responsible for the winner's chores. I was much swifter than he, and greedily accepted the challenge. Little did I know that he had spent a week mastering Wold, the first dragon word of Whirlwind's sprint. By the time I reached the peak, he was ready with bucket and broom. Even then, my old friend opted for the path of least resistance. If you are implying that the wars affected my decision, then you are incorrect. I left the service of High Hrothgar before the Great War. It is for that reason that my ideals have conviction. I did not adopt this philosophy out of some misguided passion. And may the divines grant you the strength to vanquish evil, and the wisdom to recognize it.
Some like to kill for sport, others like to kill for food. I say, why not do both?
Do you like bones, friend? I like bones. You're welcome to touch mine. That's my collection over there. I like to look at them when I sleep. It's like a big puzzle. There's so many types, and they all fit together. Yes, bones are good. I like to surround myself with them. They make me feel at ease. but I can always do it more. I killed some bandits the other day. They had such nice bones, and not just inside them. Well, this one bandit was walking around holding a perfectly good set of hip bones like it was her coin purse. I don't know how she was walking on account of her hips being outside of her body. Must have been a witch. About 3 years ago, lost everything to bandits. Should have listened to that traveling carpenter. He was replacing the logs around the village. I almost said yes, until he started trying to sell me on replacing the floorboards. What's an imperial no about fine Nord craftsmanship? So I told him to peddle his snake oil somewhere else. A month later, bandits raided my home. Came right through the front door. They robbed me, beat me, left me for dead. I could reach into my stomach and touch my insides. It was real soft, not like bone. I slumped to the ground, laying my back on the wood. It was rough to the touch. My hand caught a splinter. I thought, even in my final moments, the gods still saw fit to mock me. But when I turned to look at my hand, I saw something rocking gently under the bed. It was an elf potion. No, potions saved my life, but didn't make life safe. With no home, I had to sleep in caves. Those places are cold and scary. But one day I found a cave that was warm, had clean beds, stocks of food. I couldn't believe my luck. Too tired to think it was the bad kind. I slept better than I had in years. Would have slept right through my own death when the bandits came home. That is, if not for the rattle by the entrance. Clack, 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 clack. Heard it loud and clear. Bones. Sweet, wonderful bones. I picked up my axe and ambushed the bandits in their own home. But in the end, it was the bones that saved me. I hoped you would ask me about my bones. I have all kinds, orc spines, elf legs, and little chicken bones you can wear around your neck. The hands are made from a khajiit, I think. A lot of sand in the joints. The fingers are fun to look at, so many little bones. I also have a nice set of hip bones with me too, but it's not part of the collection, because they're confusing. By Ysmir's beard, I can't tell whether they belong to a man or a woman. It's very important I know what type of bone I'm handling. Because sometimes I like to put the bones back together. Helps pass the time on the cold days. But I won't put male bones with female bones, or mix human ones with elves. That's an affront to the gods, and I won't be a part of it. I hope the hands I also have by Ysmir's beard. Oh, there's differences. Sometimes it's the length, other times it's the thickness. Or sometimes you'll get something like those khajiit fingers where they'll almost look like claws. And you can't miss an orc skull. Wish I had one to show you. I hope the hands I also have a nice by Ysmir's beard. I can't tell whether they belong to a... No, not at all. That's what they're there for. Although most times I just marvel at them. Every now and then I put them together. Just don't get cute and mix human parts with the elven ones. That's an insult to the gods, and I won't stand for it. I hope the hand I also have by Ysmir's beard. I can't... I hadn't considered that. Would explain the peculiar shape. Well, I don't want anything to do with a fake set of bones. Here, you take it. hips are my favorite. Shaped like a butterfly, except they aren't made of butter, but bone. Oh no, you can't put a price on bones. That's just wrong. I hope the hand. I also had an. They were really nice bones, but something was. Oh, or sometimes you can't miss an orc skull. Wish I had one to show you. Then. Ever noticed how similar tailed bones are to spines?
I had no choice but to follow.
I had a collection of skeletons. I kept account of how many men I'd skinned. Then I lost track and it lost its appeal.
The next morning I woke up and was startled to find myself surrounded by 3 new guides. I insisted no, demanded they tell me what had happened to the others. They said nothing, and once more bade me to follow. So it went as we traveled across the coastal kingdoms, through sandstorms and mountains and the snake pit of Balhar. Every night I bade my guides farewell, for every morning I knew another set would take their place. Undoubtedly, it seemed I was going in circles. Finally, the guides led me back to familiar sands, and we followed the stars to the nearest settlement. When we reached the oasis, I thanked the last of my guides, and was about to set off when I realized for the first time I recognized their faces. Sullen eyes, thin lips, and hooked noses. They looked almost like vultures. Then I knew. The guides had never changed, only their faces. The guide saw my expression and nodded. I asked for his name, and if he would take me on as his disciple. "You may follow," he said, "but a name I cannot give, for to name a hollow-faced man is to walk the Alakir, and name the grains of sand." Marvelous, and with minimal damage I see, although these stains are rather curious. In any case, you have my thanks. The item was incredibly dear to me, as are you for returning it. As such, you have certainly earned your reward. I must say it is most handsome, but it was not always so. This orc skull has been carved to resemble a human. It is by far one of my proudest achievements as a sculptor. I filed off the tusks and contracted the jaw using techniques practiced by the ancient Yokudans for binding feet. It was a passing fancy of mine to sculpt orcs into humans, before I found my true calling as a sculptor of the undead. When my name is known throughout Tamriel, this skull may be considered a priceless historical artifact, a symbol of a road almost taken. You won't. You can't. Such is the skill and care I put into sculpting it. My only regret is that this orc no longer lives. For his skin would tell you his true ancestry, even if his bone structure did not. But do not fret. I am sure Skyrim is home to at least one shopkeeper who is discerning enough to recognize its worth. But if you must know, they are assassins, priests. Like followers of Sithis, the Hollows walk the path of the living void. The lifeblood of their magic comes from their tribal gods, to whom they pay tribute at the Shade Temple strewn across the Alakir. They walk this long pilgrimage. The sandstorms cut away at their flesh, shaping their countenance, eroding flesh and bone. You may find that hard to believe, but it is true in Hammerfell sand, plays an important role in the shaping of all things. It is sand that allows the saw to cut and shape blocks of stone. Sand that is glazed on the bone cutter's knife as he reshapes your skull. And that is the answer to your query. It is not flesh that makes a face. It is cartilage and bone. Shape that, and the flesh will form around it. Don't be afraid to put on a brave face.